little green army men, and colorful plastic dinosaurs. What? Hi, Wargamers. I'm Mr. Wargaming, and my marketing team recently informed me that I need to do a better job establishing rapport with my viewers, which means showing my face. So here I am. Apparently the hands, while lovely, just aren't enough. Today we're going to be reaching levels of nostalgia that shouldn't even be possible. In addition to the aforementioned Little Green Army Men and the plastic dinosaurs, we're going to take a look at Dragon Magazine issue number 166. Originally published in February 1991, this issue included a miniature wargame rule set called Dino Wars. This is why I don't do on-camera work all that often. You can get yourself a copy of Dino Wars online, you know the drill. Just remember, it's Dragon Magazine, February 1991, issue 166. The U.S. Army meets the dinosaurs and the fight is on. I want to talk a little bit about why this is such an inspirational set of rules. And then we're going to move into just some fun little bits, and then we'll actually look at the game itself. As is my way when we introduce a new game, we'll do a little bit of a brief overview, we'll run down the rules, put together a couple of force lists, and then next week, we will actually play out the battle between the Green Army Men and the dinosaurs. So the first thing to call your attention to is that one of the reasons I'm doing this is that I'd like to bring you guys things that no one else has shown you, things you may not have seen in a long time. And this is a really valuable exercise for a couple of reasons. One, these dinosaurs cost $1.33 at Walmart. I spent a total of, I think, $13 on this war game. The little tub here cost like $5.50, maybe $5, something like that. And it even comes with, look at this, cheap plastic terrain. It's got fences for you. It's got, I don't know that we're going to get any use out of this jet that you can barely see, but it's got all kinds of good stuff. It even comes with a little mountain for blocking line of sight. What is this? It comes with, I don't know, I think that's supposed to be a gun emplacement. What else we got? We got some sandbags, and then, not too many guys, but this will be enough to put together a war game. So again, money should not be a disincentive to war game. I guess, technically this looks like it could be used. If I pull this handle off, this may wind up being some terrain as well. The other reason I brought this out is that in 1991, I was a very young man. I wore a younger man's clothes and a younger man's set of glasses. I always wanted to try this, but I could never find anybody to try it with or to play this with me. And I never actually worked up the gumption to grab these. Look, how curious is that? It's Americans versus British. You gotta love it. I could never work up the time or the inclination to actually play this. And I got to thinking, hey, I have friends now. That's you. I should show them how this game works. And once I grabbed this rule set, I started noticing that there's a lot of other things that you can identify. First thing is, as we just kind of go through the background of this, this is written by Tom Moldvay in 1991. Now, Tom Moldvay famously put together the basic edition of Dungeons & Dragons. We had the old Dungeons & Dragons, and then we had the Blue Book, sometimes called the Blue Home, and then we had the infamous BX split and Moldvay wrote the original of that. And then, of course, you have what we commonly think of as the Red Box, AD&D. But anyway, so Tom Moldvay worked in the, I want to say early 80s. Now it's 1991, and he is still working at TSR. TSR is still a going concern at this point, and he's got to fill column inches. So we have this, just to show you, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's about 5, 6 pages of rules, and then we get into the game setup, dinosaur descriptions, and we have in this wonderful 1980s, it's late 80s, but in fine 80s style, it's heavy on the charts. We'll look at these closer in a little bit. It's really only about 4 or 5 pages worth. It starts, as we so often do, with a couple of columns of inspirational reading, a little bit of fiction, a little flash fiction to set the mood. I like to think of Tom Moldvay turning in this manuscript for this article, and then the editor at the time, I don't know if it was maybe Doug Niles, maybe Roger Moore. I don't know. I probably should have looked that up. Coming back to Tom and saying, bruh, we need you to fill another 8 column inches. So Tom steps back and he goes, yeah, blah, 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 and the next day he comes in with this, what, about 350, 400 word flash fiction. And it's not Sky Hernstrom quality, but in my head canon, Tom just whips this off the cuff and it's fine. It's delightful. It sets the mood and it says, look, we know this is a bit silly, but we also know that if you were a kid or you have kids, you got everything you need to do to play Dino Wars. The other thing to probably point out right out of the gate is this is 1991. This is pre-Jurassic Park. So the dinosaurs that we'll meet in here, I'm going to show you a couple of things about where we're at in our understanding of dinosaurs, at least scientifically. But that just kind of amuses me that we do that. And then there's another thing. What I loved about the old TSR, these like 80s and into the early 90s, they never miss a trick. Sorry for the awkward edit there. As I was saying, designed by Tom Moldvay, development by Tom Moldvay and Lawrence Schick, playtesters, and I'm not going to read all of these, but I do want to point out, wait, you're playtesting these rules? Pretty Chad move. Interesting that back then, even just a simple little magazine article was playtested. There are some Hex and Counter War games that can take a lesson from these guys. So look at these names here, and maybe you'll recognize some of these and call them out in the comments down below. But I specifically wanted to point out, we got a guy by the name of Jeff D. He did a lot of the original art in the Moldvay D&D, and maybe even some of the Holmes. But then look at this guy. Here we've got a guy by the name of Errol Otis, who needs no introduction. Bill Willingham did a lot of the great like comic book style art in the Moldvay version. He went on to have a long career in comic books, and he's one of our guys. These guys didn't miss a trick to throw in a little bit of extra entertainment. They also have special thanks to John Michael Moore. Oh, he must be the son of the editor Roger Moore, who let us use his dinosaurs, and then Mickey Zucker and John's relatives, who gave John all the dinosaurs. Dale Donovan supplies the Army Men. As I said, I bought Army Men. So now, in fine 80s format, we're not going to go through... So the modern rules generally will tell you, look, here's the pieces that you need, here's the dice you need, here's a general overview. You know, then they get into the rules, and then they get into the army lists. They may even do army lists before the rules, and then they get into scenarios. Back in the day, we went right into sequence of play. So let's take a look at that real quick. The dinosaurs move, and in the dinosaur movement phase, you have a couple of different things going on. The dinosaurs are going to move all their dinosaurs, and I'm going to stand a couple of these army dudes up to show you how this works. A dinosaur moves into contact with an army man. The army man then gets an opportunity to shoot the dinosaur. If it's the start of the game, the dinosaur will survive, and he will either squash this guy or he won't. If he doesn't manage to squash the guy, this dinosaur's movement is done. If he does squash the army man, and now that costs 2 inches. If after expending the 2 inches to overrun, he has more movement, he can continue to move. If he reaches another army man, this fellow with the grenades can make his closing fire. If the dinosaur survives that, the dinosaur gets to stomp. If he gets to an army man and he doesn't have 2 inches of movement left, he's done moving. Then we move on to the regular fire phase. Any army man who is still up can go ahead and take his shot. Now the dinosaurs go chomp, chomp, chomp. And I should point out, any guy that is already in contact has already fired this turn, so the army guy can't move. Chomp, chomp, shoot, 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 chomp, chomp, chomp. Now the army guys can run away, and we have a secondary fire phase. This phase is for weapons that have multiple attacks. Can I pull one out of my mess here? Do we have any weapons with multiple attacks? I didn't look closely enough. This kit that I bought came with zoomies. It comes with a bunch of F-22s, which are older than 91, I think. And then I don't even know what this is. Some kind of like close air support or drone. So we may have some zoomies flying around, but we don't have any Jeeps. The rules do have include Jeeps, tanks, that kind of thing. And I don't see any. I might need to go back and find another package. Maybe at the gas station I can spend another $2. But if you have weapons with multiple shots, this is where the secondary phase comes in. We also have 4 different kinds of troopers. The guys who are laying down with their assault rifles or mortars with indirect fire, those are your basic line troopers. When they get attacked by a dinosaur, we'll look at that next, they just automatically die. We also have, and just to identify who is who, I've got 2 NCOs, 1 leader, and 1 hero that I'm showing you. And you have to decide that ahead of time. When these leader types are the victim of a successful attack, they get to make a luck roll. And in that case, it's going to be successful on a 7, an 8, or a 9 for the NCO, the leader, and the hero. And the luck roll just means roll 2d6, and you got to get that score or less. So on a 9 or less, our hero doesn't actually die. Now, how does the actual attack work? Well, it's very simple. Each dinosaur has a stat line that we'll look at in a second, but I wanted to go over what happens when they attack first, because now we can look at what dinosaurs Tom Moldvay gives us to play with. And here's where we see the attack scores for different dinosaurs. Before I start pointing at numbers and talking about what distinguishes one dinosaur from another, there's a couple of things I want to point out. This, as I said, is 1991, so we are beyond the point of Brontosaurus. It is going to be Brachiosauruses. And we don't have the king dinosaurs down here, Tyrannosaurus. There's no Velociraptor. They hadn't quite entered the public conscious yet, so be aware of that. We do have Gallimimus, remember in the classic, the now classic old school movie, Jurassic Park. Remember when they were hiding behind the log? Oh, Gallimimus, that's those little guys. So you can see they only have 3 life points. Contrast that with our Brachiosaurus, 32. The Army Man weapons do 1 to 2, but the heavy things like a mortar or the bazooka, those will do 3 life points and have a chance at an auto kill. But we'll look at the soldiers' stat lines in a minute. Because this is the 1980s, we have to have lots of charts and tables. But I love the fact that each of these dinosaurs looks, feels, and plays very different. The Allosaurus here has 10 life points, moves 18 inches. Its attack score is 10, so this is a really good attacker. It does 3 damage, which with the asterisk means it automatically destroys a non-tank vehicle on a 2. And then some of them even have armor, which simply reduces the attack roll. And now I think it's probably worthwhile looking at our boys with the rifles are going to have an attack score of 7, assault rifles of 8. Those can make 2 attacks per turn. They can make the overrun attack, and then if he's still alive, they can fire again in that secondary fire phase. Submachine guns, pistols. You can see the pistol we've got different ranges for every weapon. You can only throw a grenade 3 inches, but it does do buku damage with an automatic kill on an attack roll of 2. So this is where the armor comes in. If you only hit on an 8 or less, well, that armor means you're only hitting on a 6 or less. And as you might expect, the armor comes into play for something like the Ankylosaurus, which has that plated hide. Who else do we have here? The Stegosaurus has an armor of 1. I don't know what the hash is off the top of my head. Pachycephalosaurus has an armor of 2. Man, I've never heard of that. And that's where I think we can kind of turn our attention to the fact that this game, for a magazine game that is, in a sense, a kind of filler, it's very well researched. Although, because we're boys playing with boys' toys, I mean, come on, what kid isn't fascinated by dinosaurs? And we could probably inject the usual analysis of, if you've got a 4 or 5-year-old boy that you want to get into wargaming, you've already got the dinosaurs. And even though, look at this guy, I found this dark black crocodile, alligator. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not an animalologist, but we have stats for this. We'll circle back to that in a second. Look at these dinosaur descriptions, right? Like I wasn't sure who this weird, where'd he go? Here we go. See this guy with a rocky head? I don't even know what kind of dinosaur he is. But we've got the descriptions right here. Apatosaurus. Well, I don't think he is. Herbivore, Jurassic. It's not a Brachiosaurus. I think it's a right, so here we go. Gallimimus, 13 feet tall, 250 pounds. Was the largest known ostrich-like dinosaur. That sounds familiar. You know, we could even do the hello. Are we gonna have dinosaurs on this tour? I'm trying to remember what the classic line from the movie was. I think it's something like a ceratosaurus, swift savage ceratosaurus, bony ridge above each eye and a horn-like growth above its nose. That's pretty close. Maybe that's a ceratosaurus. And, you know, he's 8 foot tall, 20 feet long, 1 ton. Yeah, pretty good. Suggests it may have hunted in packs. I don't think that's it, though. Soliophilus? Dolichosaurus? The dinosaur is similar to Colaphysis. You know, and honestly, it probably didn't take a whole long time. There's so many books on dinosaurs. And I don't know. Hey, maybe he went to 1991 Wikipedia. Remember that? They were called encyclopedias. Iguanodons, 30 feet long. This bipedal dinosaur is strong and bulky with curious spike-like thumbs. Man, you love to see it. Look at all this good stuff. So we've got lots of charts and graphs, which, man, we just love to see, don't we? And we can take a look here at we even have rules for pterodactyls. You know, they only have 1 life point. They move 36 inches, but they attack quick. And what is that? 1 damage. So the damage comes into play when you're attacking vehicles. And I don't want to get too deep into this because I've said most of what I want to say here. Yeah, no zoomies, so forget about that. I'll have to go back to the big box store, see if I can find a couple of tanks. But here we have the structural points, and this is really where the damage comes in for the dinosaurs. And rather than having an armor score that affects the ability to hit, the army vehicles will have a certain number of hit points, right? Carrying capacity, if you've got a truck, you can pack 8 guys in there, and they do also have a couple of crew members as well. We have crude weapons, crude as in C-R-E-W-E-D. So now let's take a look, with all of that said, at the game setup. Very points-based. And in my case, I needed to figure out how many points of dinosaurs I have, and then calculate the number of army guys that I could bring to the party from that. Here are the big boys. I bought them each for $1.33. Note that this guy here with the Edward Scissorhands in the back, the quality control for whatever Chinese factory manufactured this, he's got a gimp leg. He doesn't stand upright, and quite frankly, he's just going right in the trash. You can't help it. So we have 6 dinosaurs, and as we go around the horn, actually we'll go alphabetical. This is the Apatosaurus. That's the Brontosaurus. So it was renamed the Apatosaurus. He's got 24 life points. He's a little smaller than the Brachiosaurus, so I'm going to go with that. Life points equals how many points it costs to buy them. 24 for him. The Ceratosaurus has 7, and that's this guy with the bony head. Then we have the Dinosuchus, and he can move 24 inches through the water. He only moves 12 on land, 24 in the water. And then we have the Monoclonius, and there's a little bit of proxying going on here. See the guy with the horn? He is Monoclonius, just 9 points. Scale is way off. This guy should be about as tall as this guy. Again, QC, not the best in the world. Of course, the Stegosaurus with 11 life points, and I'm going to proxy this guy for T-Rex. I know he looks a lot more like a Velociraptor, but we don't have Velociraptors in here. The closest I could find is something called a Therizinosaurus, which may have been later reclassified. It's described in the rules as a Therazine, 35 feet long, 18 feet tall. No, that's not it. Oh, here we go. Stenonychosaurus was 6.5 feet long, 80-pound omnivore, an agile, rapid runner, roughly the size of a man. Though lighter, it probably had the largest brain-to-body ratio of any dinosaur. So if you have a whole bunch of Velociraptors, just use the Stenonychosaurus, and you'll be good to go. That gives us a grand total of... Where'd my cheat sheet go? There we go. 81 points. So with 81 points worth of dinosaurs, we can buy 40 points worth of soldiers. Against those 6 dinosaurs, we've got these 16 army men. They're all on the same side. Don't pay attention to the uniform color. I guess this is a UN force or maybe NATO force going against the dinosaurs. The leaders all get +1 to their attack roll. I should have mentioned that. And as far as points go, remember we've got 40 to work with. The hero costs 5, the leader costs 4, and each of these NCOs costs 3. That's 15 points. That leaves us 25 points left over. Regular guys cost 2 points apiece no matter how they are armed. So these 6 over here, we're going to say have assault rifles, and then you can see we've got 2 guys with mortars, 2 guys with bazookas, and 2 guys with a rifle and grenades. There are a host of optional rules for things like snipers, and we may decide that the guys laying down are snipers. Limited grenades, so that these guys can't just light up the dinosaurs. Now remember, the grenades are tougher, but they only have a 3-inch range, so you're not going to have a whole lot of luck with those. There are also rules for wounded men. If your leader succeeds in his luck roll, he is still wounded, which means he loses his attack bonus for the rest of the game. Well, that's not too bad. That's pretty easy to keep track of. You can purchase, and as I said, if you really want to get complicated, you can add in jeeps, half-tracks, armored cars, and even tanks. The last thing we should probably talk about in this full overview, and I know we're running a little long, but that's fine. You guys are washing the dishes or painting miniatures, so we can do that. Let's look at a couple of scenarios that they offer. There are 2 kinds of setup, random and deliberate. In either case, the dinosaurs have to be further than 24 inches away to the nearest army guy. Dino Island calls for a 6-player game. This is probably more of a convention game. The army player is going to have anywhere from 50 to 100 points, which means you're looking at 100 to 200 points of dinosaurs per player. It's going to be massive. You've got 12 points on the island, and each army guy sets up everybody sets up at a random point. So I think you draw chits, and then you have to set up within like 6 inches, and then it's a fight to the death beyond that. Then we have Time Gate, which is basically a capture the flag. The army men have to get in and get out. Now I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an army man base, like a forward operating base on Dinosaur Island, and I'm going to have the dinosaurs try to overwhelm it. And I already showed you the point costs. So although it's not listed in here, right, variation, the army begins the game entirely mechanized. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Basically, there's a time gate. You have to go get the power core and then plug it into the gate back in your home base. And if you do, all of the army men that move through the gate can escape back through from like Dinosaur Atlantis back to where through the Stargate, I guess you could call it. Maybe it's not even a time thing. Maybe it's just a space thing. Maybe it's Dinosaur Planet. Look, we're having some B-grade fun with some classic toys, and with a game like this where it's just 2d6 roll under and very few modifiers to worry about, absolutely ideal for your young'uns and your old'uns alike who have a hankering for some nostalgia. I'm Mr. Wargaming. Thanks for watching. Next time we look at Dino Wars, we're going to put it on the table? I don't know that I have a big enough table for this. We'll figure something out. Until we do, I'm praying for you.